What's up, guys? Hope you ain't gave up on us.
I was giving up on us.
Oh man, technology is great when it works, and when it doesn't, it can be quite challenging. But we're here. We survived.
Are here. Here we have real quick.
Tonight, our discussion is going to be on finicky wintertime crappie, and it's a subject that we deal with every day. Isn't that right, Dustin?
Yes, sir. I got y'all now. I had to get where I could read everything. But
Well, good.
yes,
These wintertime crappie, they've been finicky really since I guess the first of the year for me down here in Mississippi. What about you?
yeah, we're starting to finally. They were really finicky when the weather was changing a lot, but we finally kind of have a pattern stuck. So the fish are getting a lot more aggressive. And in this clear water, it seems at Grand, the clear water they are a little bit more aggressive than muddy water, shallow fish.
Yeah. Well, let's hear your today's bite.
Yeah. Um, Grand Lake is finally where I'm wanting it. Big schools of fish. Roman, you can catch fish roaming. You can also catch them on structure. I kind of found a different pattern yesterday with timber, fish on timber. I say timber brush piles or around structure, around 45 to 55 foot deep. And that was, yeah, that was definitely the best bite there probably was around the 50 to 55 foot range off the bottom. And these fish were super aggressive and better quality fish than most of the Roman fish we were catching. So you can catch numbers and you can catch size. It's a good time to go out, and we're enjoying it. I've got a trip tomorrow. I'm going to try a couple of different spots that should match up what we did today or yesterday. So, yeah, wintertime is a go. Green light now.
All right, let's hear today's bite. Dig into it for me.
Yeah, so I would just say we started out chasing Roman fish. Is what I usually do every year, is chasing schools of Roman crappie. I'll go in each mouth of the cove off the channel and check with my down imaging or side for bait fish. If I find bait fish, I'll look for a little bit. It looks kind of like bait fish, just bigger. And when I see that, I'll drop the trolling motor and chase these fish around, have my clients up front casting to them. And we were pitching. We started off with a slab hunter with a swimming tail on it, and then we switched to
the full size big slab hunters.
Yeah, the full size one, and they were kind of short striking it, and every once in a while one would eat it just slow. And we switched to something a little subtle, bleeding shad, one of my favorites, and then the other fella had a glitter critter, and he started smoking them on it. So they both had one of those. The Roman fish, like I said, we were catching fish. They just were not near as active as I like them. So we just kept moving, slowly filling the box. And then I happened to be transitioning from one cove to the next and just kind of fished my way out of it. And off of a point, I found a structure off the main lake and around 55 to 60 foot of water. And there was a pile of fish on it, loaded off of kind of a bluff. And
yeah,
we sat on top of them and just destroyed them, caught everybody's limits. And I even got to fish, catch my limit, and we rolled out. So it was a great day. The weather is absolutely amazing. Tomorrow is another awesome day. And then we finally get a little bit more of a cold front moving in. But those 65 to 70-degree days out here are just, I mean, today felt like a spring day. So it was absolutely amazing.
My today's bite was, pretty interesting. I've seen something the last couple of days since last week that is actually, you know, putting more fish in the boat in a little bit quicker manner. And what I'm looking for is I'm chasing Roman suspended fish out in open water. 20 plus foot of water is actually where I'm finding most of my fish at. But the old theory goes that we would always look for bait fish. And what I've noticed the past week is that if I find an area that has a lot of bait, I can't catch the crappie in there. So I'm actually looking for areas that has still bait fish in there, but they have to be, like I said, time and time again, they have to be really balled up real tight and showing that they're scared of their life for me to go in that area and actually catch crappie in that area. So I'm not looking for an area that's holding a lot of shad. I'm looking for an area that's holding shad balls that are really grouped up tight together. And at that point, these fish are 12 to about 14 foot deep, sometimes 15, but 12 to 14 is really the line that the active fish are out actually feeding on. And it's dropping right in front of them and sitting there 2 or 3 inches, 4 inches above the fish's head, and actually just making these baits. And I'm going to show you one of my baits, but I'm not going to elaborate on the backside of it yet, you guys. But this holding this slab slayer, it can be orange, the Cajun cricket, horsefly, mud dauber. This is monkey milk right here, but holding these baits right above the fish's head, and then actually instead of twitching it, I'm tapping my rod. I'm tapping it with my index finger, tapping it, and it just makes these baits kind of vibrate.
Oh yeah.
And then once I see that fish actually notices it, I'm gonna just slowly raise it up from them. And as that bait's rising above them, they'll come up and actually smack it.
Donna.
And that's kind of what's been going on. But, I've been holding on to this little secret for a little while, and it's really not a secret because this product's been out for a long time. And I would say probably about 5 years, but I think it's a lot of people that actually haven't taken advantage of it. And that is the slab tickler. And you might ask, what is a slab tickler?
It tickles the slab.
It's tickling them. Hopefully tickling them on the nose, but I'm taking a slab tickler and I'm just putting it on my line up above my jig head. And it's just drawing a little bit more attention to these baits for these crappie. And you can rig them with a bobber stop right above your knot. And I'm just, as I'm dropping it down, these blades just flutter right into the jig head, into the body of the bait. As you can see, it would slow reel fall and actually stop right there. But it's just something that it draws attention for the crappie to attack. And mine are not quite as deep as Dustin's there, but my fish are about 12 to 14 foot deep.
They're still acting the same, though.
Yeah, they're still acting the same. They're out suspended.
So they come in different colors, these ticklers, and I like to go with the silver just because of the bait fish color, of course, right now this time of year. But I've got a silver one. I let it run all the way to the base. I just don't. I don't have the loop knot, so it makes it all the way down. But same exact theory. I've got my weight and bobber stop for that deeper water. I've got both sides pegged, and let that bad boy glide all the way to the bottom. If they're not seeing their baits go down, I just say to your line, slack out, reel up a couple times. But same exact thing you say, just a slow retrieve right now. And if they commit to it, boy, they're knocking the rod out of your hands. But a lot of fish, you can tell there's just certain ones that are aggressive and certain ones are not. Not all of them are racing up to hit it, but thankfully there's enough that will come up and get a hold of the bait. John Breland, smaller and brighter is better this time of year. It's funny you say that because there's a small little bright rascal right there that works great. But yeah, downsizing is good. Certain lakes, if I'm in a muddy water lake, shallower or shallower than what we are now, I'm definitely downsizing. But thankfully, in this clear water, these fish are getting really aggressive and hitting bigger baits.
Another thing that, if you're wanting to try these slab ticklers out, the best way to do it is going to be go to lurenet.com. And we've got actually a pretty good deal going for you guys. We've got a special code for you can get 15% off of them right now. Yeah. So, get you some. And
are you going to put that code somewhere?
Yep, I'm actually just showed it on the screen right now, and the code for
perfect
this is going to be today's bite 15, and you can see it on the screen. But
is it all caps?
Also, yep, all caps. Today's bite 15. It'll get you 15% off your order. You can order the slab ticklers and use some of the Crappie Pro jig heads. They're running on sale just for our show.
That's a killer comment, guys. I'm telling you, if you ain't got the slab ticklers, that is something to just add in your arsenal, just like putting scent on your bait, anything else. Niblet, just something extra that fish don't see very often. Chris Collins, why do I peg both sides? That's a good question. I don't like the bait slipping and falling when I'm dropping really deep. And I also have tangle issues. When you have this bait sliding everywhere, the jig will outrun it'll just tangle up into a mess. But it just seems to do a lot better when I peg both sides. I'm always swinging, even shallower water. I'll peg both sides. Try it next time. See if you like it. If you peg one side, try pegging both. I feel like it helps just a little bit. But everybody fishes a little bit different, has a different style.
Yeah, it's a neat little trick to try, especially on finicky crappie. I mean, we always talk about profiles and using scent, but this is one thing that hasn't been really discussed in a long time, and it's these slab ticklers, and it's guys out there using them, and I've been one of those guys that's been out there using them, and it's just something that is going to get these finicky fish to actually get their attention and come up and attack the bait.
I was wondering when John Mayo was going to get on here. He says he's catching below 5 foot or above any fish below 5 foot. He's not pitching on, so they're real shallow in the Big Four. Man, so are they able to fish Grenada right now? I knew that there was a time that they usually can't.
No, I think a lot of guys are probably fishing Sardis and Enid up on the Big Four. I know I've seen my buddy Tim today. I'm not sure about Arcabulla. I'm sure John can chime in on that and give us an answer with it.
Boy, if they're already that shallow, that's crazy. I love when they get up there 5 foot or less. That's some fun fishing. Cannot wait to pay a visit.
Yeah, I seen another video from Tim Howell, and he was fishing up today, and it looked like that fish he had on video was literally a foot under the surface, suspended. And I think I saw about 5 foot of water.
Yeah, someone said here that can't get in Grenada. What's the website? What website do they go to for these? Is it lurenet.com?
Lurenet.com.
Lurenet.com. Yeah, spell that one out. LURENET.com.
You got. This is definitely not a spelling show here, but
heck no.
I'd be out here quick.
See, all them pictures, Grenada guides out there, they be fooling us because I've been thinking some of those are from Grenada. Some of those fish are Grenada fish, but nobody can get in there yet. That kind of excites me. I thought they were already starting to beat them up.
No, and there's Tim. It says the fins are out of the water today. I now saw his video, and
that is unreal. I'm gonna look at that. Guys, I will post a video soon, probably on my GFB Outdoors on my Facebook page. If you go to GFB Outdoors, give it a like. We caught fish in 114 to 117 foot of water, probably 25 to 35 foot deep. Super cool video. There's places you'd never look for crappie that they do live. A channel's a channel no matter how deep it is. Those fish hang in there.
903 Fishing from YouTube. What's up, guys? I do a lot of crappie fishing, them fellas.
You bet. They like that creek fishing. I think I've seen them on there. Too shallow on Saturday. The buzzards were circling them. John Mayo said the fish were so shallow Saturday, the buzzards were circling them. That's crazy. Whole different world of fishing, man. You over here, like I said, 55 foot deep was probably our best bite, or maybe 50. And it takes a lot less time to dip on 1/2 a foot deep than it does drop 150 foot.
Gregory Harris from YouTube. There's a discount code he just asked me about. It's on the screen. Today's Bite 15, all caps, no spaces. Should give you a 15% off all the slab ticklers and the Crappie Pro jig heads that you want.
They have all sizes in those jig heads too, guys. All different sizes and colors. My favorite three would probably be the pink, white, and chartreuse. Can't go wrong with any of those.
All right, guys, I'm going to go to the next little section here, but, we want to hear some fishing reports. We gave out today's bite on our end. Let's hear your guys' today's bites. Shoot them out there. I know Tim was out there. Bob, there he goes. He's showing us out right there. Bob, what water are you on? I see you posting that they're 6 foot deep.
Enid, I think.
Yep. Oh, I see it at the end.
Yep, 16 foot of water, 6 foot deep in Enid. That is prime fishing right there. That's where you want them. Like I said, you can do that here. That's some fun fishing when they're aggressive. Yes, it is, John. Almost bedtime. It's almost bedtime for me too. We had a malfunction with all getting on here, but we're finally on now.
I got a YouTube question here. How would you fish a small lake usually good most of the year, except for the winter? not having any luck in the wintertime.
Do you fish the channel? Do you revolve around the channel in the wintertime? Because all your summertime and spring spots are kind of not going to hold fish right now. Smaller lake like that, they seem to kind of go in the middle. So I'd try to just check places you haven't yet. Surely there's spots there, but if you check places you haven't, maybe you'll find them.
Well, my answer to that would be fairly similar. I would look for the deepest water in that lake, and then I would look for the bait fish. But like I said earlier, I want to look for an area that has the bait balls tight together. And at that point, it pretty much means to me that those fish, that prey fish is getting preyed upon. And then I'm going to start looking for my crappie. Whether it's 2D sonar or live scope or whatever, but that one key as far as finding fish in an area that's feeding has always been one of the game changers for me way before live scope.
Year round or for wintertime?
Year round, really.
Okay. I was going to say during the spring, I've noticed the shad don't ball up near as much here. Even in Grenada, when I was fishing it seemed like they're kind of just scattered out. But when you found bait fish, you were in the right area. But a lot of times they were kind of lined out a little bit. So I was just wondering if you found balls of bait fish year round or certain times they started to get different. Jacob Stevenson, the fish you've been catching at elk, been 10 foot of water. Did you mean that there hasn't been many people catching big fish there, or there has been? That's my neck of the woods. Love fishing that lake. I would like to hear a good report on it. I haven't fished it in a while, but I'm going to pay a visit. Toronto Lake, fish.
I got Jigs Up. He says, hi, fellas. Wondering what your favorite type of line and size do you prefer for chasing open water crappie?
Ooh, good question. Go ahead.
What I've been using is a 15-pound fluorocarbon, and I've only been using it for a couple months. And it's a really heavy line, I guess you would say, for crappie fishing. But whenever you set a hook, you ain't got to worry about it snapping. You can bear down, you can pull it out of structure. I do use lighter pound test whenever I'm casting to them or spider rigging or anything else, but it just seems like live scoping open water fish, I'm using a pretty heavy duty line.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Open water fish, depending on how deep, I like the fluorocarbon. I'm really starting to go towards it, but you have to find the right fluorocarbon line. I've had some awful fluorocarbon that gets wrapped up real bad, doesn't fall smooth. It just turns into a mess. So there is certain line that does a lot better than the other. I'd say Suffix is really good, and then P line is really good too. Those two have been probably the smoothest that I've found yet. But just be careful. You get what you pay for type of deal on that. And I have struggled finding the right fluorocarbon line. But Madfish and Braid, and there's a few other braided lines out there, but Madfish is probably the smoothest I've found. I love using braid if I can get away with it too. Just for the same reason you say, don't got to worry about no breaking. If you fish it right, no tangling. I like braid. Madfish and Braid smooth too.
Yeah, you can kind of even see over my head right here. I've got K9 fishing. I got a couple spools ready to go, but the K9's been really good for me as well. I got another guy from YouTube right now. He is telling me that the Alabama River is on fire today. He caught 5 2-pound crappie. Appreciate that.
You bet. Them some big ones. Lardo Lake, Louisiana, fish are button willows 2 to 3 foot deep. All you guys catching all these shallow fish, that ain't right. Jacob Stevenson, yeah. Okay, so he says big ones are coming out of elk. Well, that's cool. Good. It's due. A $2.99. That's close. The 3-pounders are going to start coming out here real soon. My favorite time, I'd say late February, they start being about as full as they're going to get.
Yeah, down here.
I'd say, isn't that crazy? We're almost there. One more month, guys. One more month, and all these 2.5-pounders you're catching might just be 3.
I got Scott. He's also from the YouTube. I'm glad to see a lot of you guys from YouTube tuning in this week. He says current is an issue on the Coosa chain in central Alabama. How do you deal with current? And we do have current in Mississippi. We get the same rain you probably guys are getting. What
No
about
doubt.
you there, Justin? How do you deal with current?
Oh my gosh, I try to get out of it. I try to find places. I feel like crappie like current just about as much as we do. So if you can find places towards the main lake, or I guess I say you can't never get out of it if it's bad enough, but go to where it's the less current you can find.
Yeah.
It's the way. Sometimes we'll get current, even here at Grand, we get a good flood and they're pulling hard. I kind of like it sometimes because the fish that are under docks, you can now drop on one side or the other and your bait will drift into those fish. No, you don't have to dock shoot. Like if you can't get your bait in there, I can just pull my boat up to the side, drop it down, and the bait will actually swing into the fish that you normally can't get to. So sometimes a little bit of current's good, but if it gets too strong, I try to get out of there, but go towards main water and get the slowest possible.
I got my thing on current is I'm trying to find that eddy situation. And if we get a lot of current right now going through this lake I'm guiding on, Ross Barnett, I'm gonna look for deep water breaks that has the eddies.
I'll say
And
riprap really is good too, I guess is what I'm saying. Off of bridges on the opposite side of where that water's getting pulled through a bridge can absolutely be lights out sometimes. We call it riprap. That might be what you mean by eddy.
Yeah. Well, eddy's just a circular motion.
Right.
And as the current's getting pushed through an area, it just creates slack water for those fish to really pile up in. And we've got a famous hole, at least in central Mississippi, called the Welfare Hole. And a lot of guys on here will actually
I seen a guy just
that.
Yeah.
So it's a
Slack
big
water.
eddy whenever we get a lot of current. That I know 3 years ago we had rain for about 4 or 5 days, and I went over and fished it, and literally it's about the size of a football field. And it's not a secret hole, everybody here knows about it, but literally there was, I'd say, 100-200,000 fish in the area. It was stacked completely from the top of the water all the way to the bottom, and it was an eddy. So current can actually be a really good thing, especially in the wintertime for us down here.
Yeah.
If you can find those pockets that doesn't have current.
Yeah. Congregates them to certain areas. Texas yesterday, catch them 3 foot down. Man, I'm ready for some shallow bite.
Crappie crane, central Georgia. Little high and very muddy with rains. The fish moved from cove mouths and river ledges to flats off shallow points, but wouldn't eat. Any recommendation for fishing? You hear that question, or?
I did not. Is that a YouTube one?
That's a YouTube one.
I was reading a different one while you was reading that one, so I kind of got misconstrued. But go ahead.
Saying the fish are off the shallow points, but it wouldn't eat for him. Maybe it's these slab ticklers. It's keep on changing your profiles up and your colors up. And I think it's a lot of mindset of not giving up on the fish.
For sure.
From anything as small as the itty bits, and these things are super tiny, but they're super good for finicky crappie. And that can be, for me, really any time of the year. So if you get in a situation that you're having really finicky crappie and you can't get them the bites that you're accustomed to doing, downsize, and probably downsize again.
You bet.
These baits, a lot of people thought in the beginning when they come out, and everybody has them, but this itty bit swimmer here, I literally thought they wouldn't work. And then I actually went out and played with them a little while, and then I was like, man, I have missed out for so many years by not going this small. But I would downsize and see how that works for you. And actually, hey, let us know.
Yeah, you bet. Carl Ricks, that's a good fishing report there in Texas. David Fuller, some crappie Saturday on Fort Gibson were 2 foot down and 30 foot of water. I believe that. A lot of people are starting to hammer them at Fort Gibson. I will say this. Let me kind of rephrase. I say I'd want a shallow bite. When I'm catching numbers, I go wherever I think I can fill the boat full of fish. But there's a shallow bite. There's a strong point of your bite somewhere in that lake. There's shallow fish and there's deep fish. Where you're catching them in Fort Gibson shallow right now, you can go out and find deep fish too. So there's always you can always fish one of your streams normally at lakes. There's always different bites. You're never going to just all the fish are going to be shallow and all of them are going to be deep at the same time. There's a big mixture. So if I went way up in the river, even here on Grand, I could find shallow fish, a little murkier water. Just when it gets super clear, we run into having a harder time catching them shallow. But Fort Gibson, especially if you're closer to the river, you're going to get in muddier water. That's a good lake. They've been knocking the socks off of them this year.
I think this is a YouTube comment, but it goes back to what pound test am I using for long line trolling? I use a 6 pound mono. That's all I've ever used for long lining. I would say 98% of the time. Now there's some different tricks that I employ if I want to go deep or extremely shallow, but 95% of the time or something like that, I'm gonna use 6 pound test. Carl Ricks, let's see what we've got. Texas man.
Scott Walker, aka Dad. Do you guys think a little chop on the water is better than smooth water? Absolutely. Good question. Chop on the water, I would take 10 times over a smooth, calm day. I don't know what it is about it. It seems like the fish definitely turn on and feed a lot better with some chop in the water. Yeah, for sure. Chop water is good. Crappie.
Carl Ricks, he's got a report. He's fishing in
Joshua Matthews, crappie in 4 foot spawning areas, and he's around here. I would say, 4 foot. He must be. A lot of them fish are getting caught shallow in Hudson, so I'd guess he's around that area. Hudson Lake is a great lake to catch some good fish too. I absolutely think chop is good. Yeah, that choppy water, that's a good question. I don't know what it is. I don't know if the fish just, yeah. My dang thing keeps booting me out here, but.
Get it here.
I noticed that at
There's Matt from YouTube.
Go ahead.
He's up in Iowa fishing. He's ice fishing. Okay.
I seen some comments on your post. It looked like somebody was ice fishing, caught a mess of them too. That might have been him.
Yeah, and Tim says he definitely agrees the chop on the water is good.
Yeah.
I like a little chop, but fishing these big reservoirs, a light chop it can get into a big chop quickly.
Yeah, there is a fine line there, especially the lakes you're talking about. Even out in Mississippi, I've noticed, hey, a 2 mile per hour wind is a dead day here. I mean, 2 to 5, we're talking nothing. But a 2 to 5 out there, you're talking a good chop. Hold on to your fishing pole because out there in that wide open water, you don't want nothing over 5-10 mile per hour. It gets nasty. Catch them in Michigan. Golly. 30 foot to 10 foot.
I think everybody preferring a little bit more chop here.
Absolutely. Rollers.
Jim Churchill.
Tim Hallwell, be careful now. Rollers.
Ow.
I don't know about rollers. I don't like them too big.
Jim catching them in Michigan in 30 foot of water, 10 to 18 foot down in a boat. Hey, don't have any ice yet. That's probably good. I know he's a big ice fisherman, and we're going to do a podcast with him shortly.
In Michigan, what's the water temp out there like? How cold is that water? And then John Mayo asked you, Brad, what Eagle Lake in Washington is up to right now.
As far as Eagle Lake, I couldn't tell you. I haven't heard any good reports there. The fish that I know that's being caught, or I've heard that being caught, was definitely on brush piles and structure, and they're pretty dug down into it. I fished Washington this past Saturday for a couple of hours, and it was pretty tough.
Bob Grantham, that's hilarious. I would agree with that. Big Four, they call for 5 mile per hour wind, put a 1 in front of it. That's right. 5 mile per hour wind might as well be 51. I'm telling you, I learned my lesson there last year.
Well, here's a YouTube guy, Damon. He says, do crappie and stripers school together?
Ooh, no, sir. Not in my opinion. I've been to Texoma, and I've watched firsthand stripers run fish off of a brush pile. So I would say no, because I've also seen people cleaning striper with crappie stuffed in their belly. So I couldn't guess stripers being such a predatory fish, and just that is right up their alley. That's like a little filet mignon for the striper. I might even know a few guys that use those for bait. and say that there's nothing like, and that's highly illegal, I believe. But they say there's nothing like a crappie for a striper compared to a shad. So that'll answer that. I'm telling you, I don't think that they hang together much.
Yeah, I've noticed whenever I would be in an area that had crappie in there, and all of a sudden you start seeing some stripers in the mix, especially big stripers. I mean, if you're talking small stripers, not such a big deal. But these big stripers will actually shut them down and make them run for their lives.
For sure. That's what I was saying. Big striper. I will say white bass and crappie mixed together, especially this time of year. The last trip I just ran, we caught a few white bass in the same pile of crappie. So sand bass, white bass, whatever you call them, they will run with crappie, but you will not catch striper and crappie together. I don't believe, unless they're the certain sizes. Other people would have more because here we don't have striper. But the places I've traveled, it's looked like they've kind of kept their distance. But when they're spawning, white bass and crappie will kind of intermingle sometimes. When I'm fishing the banks in the river and stuff, you'll catch them both together. So
we've got Josh Robertson. Actually, Josh fished with me today. He's asking, do white crappie and black crappie usually live in different areas of the lake, and why?
Yeah, I would say certain times, yes. I've noticed. I wouldn't say they all do that, but certain times I think black crappie like clear water, and your white crappie will be in murkier water. But you can always catch black crappie here and there in the muddy water. But if you're wanting to kind of pick out the black crappie, because I've found just as many white crappie in clear water, but it just seems like the black crappie like clear a lot better. It might be why they're more finicky too. Black crappie are way more finicky, and they see a lot better clear water. So. Yeah, Kel Ward's one of the best guides on Texoma, and he just said they tend to stay away from the striper, at least on Texoma, and that's where I was saying, Kel, I seen in a tournament there, I rolled up to a brush pile full of them and seen these striper move in, and the crappie disappeared. So I thought they must not. I think the striper actually came in there and swept the brush pile of the crappie, but yeah, I would agree. Texoma they don't, but that's all I've seen.
Yeah, and Tim Howell even says it as well. You know, white crappie are more of an open water fish, suspend a lot more, and black crappie are more structurally, and at least in my experience in the waters that I'm fishing. Well, yeah. But overall, the black crappie are going to be more likely in structure over a white crappie.
Yep.
And they seem to really gravitate in reservoir systems, at least for me, in more of the river systems part of it. So if you've got a river system flowing into a body of water, a lot of the black crappie will be up in the river system and filtered into the main lake. But also, you can find them in shallow water more times of the year for us than white crappie.
For sure.
I know this past summertime I was catching black crappie in 5 foot of water, and that's very highly unusual for Ross Barnett. But they can get together, and they will get together. They'll even spawn together. But as a general rule, I feel like they do separate somewhat.
Yeah,
that answer.
I would say that's exactly what I would have said. Fat backs are my goal, aka black crappie. Hey, there's something about a black crappie. I think everybody's goal is to catch a giant black crappie. I don't know what it is. There's always something that we chase, but my goal too is to try to catch giant blackfish. There's very few lakes that, I think it's maybe because there's such an abundance of whitefish and we can catch a lot more of those, but there's very few lakes that have actual giant blackfish. So it makes it just that much sweeter when you catch them. I've seen 3-pounders come out of Grenada though, black crappie. I've seen a Magnolia. Chad Rogers, if he's watching this, he caught a three something Magnolia, had a black stripe on his nose, black crappie. That was the coolest fish I think I've seen last year for sure. That was unreal.
And Bob asking me how do you get crappie on the bottom to come up and feed, and Bob, that's probably one of the most challenging fish to actually catch, and you know that already. He's not asking me a question he don't know.
Yeah.
But fish when they're laying on the bottom, one, they're hard to see, and they're hard to actually catch.
Right. hard to see those fish on the bottom and know what you're dropping on is probably the hardest part of all that. But
I wish it was a good secret. Everybody, that one question, and there's a couple guys and that's really good on picking those bottom fish out, but that's probably the most challenging fish for me to catch, and probably like 90% of everybody else as well. But
yeah, for sure. I would say around these clear water though, even grand, these fish that are on bottom, you'll see a good congregation up suspended. But if you drop past those to the fish that you're seeing on the bottom, they seem to be a little bit more aggressive. We'll catch fish even you drop your bait into the bottom, don't see anything, and when you bring it up, there'll be 3 or 4 fish following it, and you can't see anything on your live scope. So sometimes if there's other fish there, don't be afraid. If you see structural or a stump or something, just drop it all the way to the bottom. Sometimes you cannot see them, and they'll come up and eat. Bottom fish too, it seemed like I said, clear water where I'm at is a lot more aggressive.
that's Dustin Harris. He's a good buddy of mine, very good fisherman as well. He's saying that black crappie spend 90% of their life in 5-foot water or less.
I
goes with me.
Yeah, I would not doubt that. I don't got it broke down to that kind of a science, but I wouldn't argue that at all. But I've also went to Table Rock this last tournament, Wally Marshall, and the biggest fish of the trip, I think it was a 186 black crappie, and caught her 45 foot deep. So I think it just depends where you're at and what fish we're talking, because everywhere's a little bit different. But the biggest fish out there was a blackfish 45 foot deep on a stump by herself.
Well, going back to the whole theme of, what we're speaking of is generally.
Exactly.
It's nothing set in stone when it comes to crappie fishing, and all these guys on here will testify what I'm saying when it comes to that, is that things change day to day and hour to hour, and it's just like Dustin and I are completely different guys, but we have a common denominator here, and it's crappie fishing.
For sure.
And but in general, that's what we're speaking about when it comes to these fish. All right, somebody give me some more today's bite. I'm ready and listening for you.
Let's see here, going to nothing.
John Breland, I totally agree with you. I can't appreciate, all my buddies getting on here and fishing friends. And, we've got some killer fishermen giving us some comments. And I want to thank everybody that's commenting right now. We definitely appreciate your time and coming on here watching us when we do this thing. Tuesday nights, today's bite's going to be on here. And we're here for you fishermen. We're here to answer your questions. And you might not always agree with us, but we're going to give you honest opinions and then hopefully become better fishermen.
And if you learn anything and you have a good time doing it, post a picture on these comments. I'd love to see the fish y'all are catching.
Yeah.
A quick shout out for people around me, Bud's Bait in Joplin. I found these bad boys. These are the split tail salt and pepper pearl Bobby Garland. Hard to find, but super good baits for around here. They've got this personal order of them out there, and they've got a good stack. So if y'all are looking for those, Bud's Bait and Joplin's got them. I actually picked up a couple extras today, but that's one of my favorite colors when you're looking for the shad type winter fish.
Charles, he's asking me about the limits on Ross Barnett. Ross Barnett has got a running ton of fish. I don't necessarily think it needs to be the same as the big four. I definitely think that 30 is probably pushing it per person. I don't necessarily think that we need to go to the 12-inch rule. I would like to see the daily limit dropped and the size limit stay the same.
I think daily limit drop would never hurt anything, especially for as many more fish as getting pulled out of reservoirs now than there has been. Dropping it shouldn't hurt a darn thing. Do you think the crappie ticklers increase the water displacement or vibration of the bait, and that's why they're not aggressive towards it? They are not aggressive towards it. I would say they're actually aggressive towards it when they come up. If you're saying crappie displacers increase the water displacement or vibration of the bait, that's why they're not aggressive towards it. They are aggressive towards it, and I think that's why I let it go all the way to the bait, is because I'll have a lot of fish hit my weight, 9 times out of 10, if you drop it too far or a client will drop it a little too deep, if they see that bait, they'll nose up there and run up to it. But if they're aggressive enough, anything catching their eye when they're looking for dead, when we're having a shad kill or stuff like that, anything fluttering down, they're going to come up. But when they're coming up, you're hoping that it gets to your bait before they whack it. Usually it will.
Yeah, I think that's what he meant as well. He come back and said the same thing. And I'd say about 5 years ago, and I'm going to put this code back up here again for you guys. But
Gotcha. More aggressive.
first time I seen these in a tank, I was doing a tank demo at Bass Pro Shops and dropped them in and watched these little baits flutter down. And it was amazing to me how quick it got these fish's attention. Just that bait kind of fluttering down like a wounded minnow. And it's a really good trick for finicky fish.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a deadly little combination. And in case people are just jumping on here, we have a code, get a discount on them for this.
I'll put that back up on here.
This video here, yeah, I would throw that up there. And then, guys, you get, is it 15% off?
15% off.
15%
all slab
off.
ticklers?
Slab ticklers, guys. I'm telling you, if you ain't got it, it's just like I told earlier in the video. It's just like adding adding niblets or anything else. Just something that displaces the water, something with a swim bait or anything like that. It gives that much extra that sometimes will trigger them.
Well, we've got a question from YouTube. Damon, he says, how far did crappie really travel after fall going into wintertime patterns? You know,
read that
I'm going to go back to a podcast that we did a couple years ago with a biologist here in Mississippi. And the question that we asked was, how far can a crappie travel? And they have actually researched it probably about 10 years ago, where they actually radio tracked crappie. And I want to say it was Enid, and somebody might correct me on the comments here, but it was one of the big 4 lakes. But they radio tracked crappie, and they got them moving up to 5 miles a day. So
unreal.
They can travel a long, long ways. And my response was, man, that's just astounding to me that a crappie can travel that far. And he turned around and looked at me and said, you know what? They got nothing else to do but swim.
Ain't that right? Hey, Joe Pretenza, how about them dogs? You're right, brother. Hey, they stomped a mud hole in them yesterday. Them poor guys, they took a beating. Georgia won it again. Joe Pretenza, man, like he needs his team to be winning.
We've got another Robert here. He's asking you, Dustin. He said you caught crappie 45 foot deep.
Yes, sir.
Do you fizz them or anything else?
So this is kind of crazy, but if they're smaller ones, and if you throw them back, they're just going to float there. It's almost like they're dead, kind of shocked, but it's like they're the bends is what they get. I'll just grab them and pinch their gills shut, cut my hand and blow in them, and then toss them back, and they'll shoot back down with the school. I don't know what that does or how it works, but I learned that from my great grandpa, and it just kind of got passed down. But a lot of people at Lake Uchi did it. And I finally met a guy that does it to the fish too from Uchi, but I don't know. An old timer just kind of figured that out and it worked. But other than that, sometimes there's nothing you can do. We're keeping them most of the time. If they're coming up from that deep, there's a 10-inch size limit where we're at though. So if they're shorter than 10, you got to throw them back. We have a lot of bald eagles where we're at. And if we throw them back, you don't have very much long until those bald eagles come by and grab them. But like I said, we try to shock them back and they'll swim back down most of the time. But we don't fizz them. I think fizzing them, poking a hole in something's stomach cannot be very healthy for it. So I don't fizz them, but it probably would help for the meantime. I think I don't know if there is a proven system, but like I said, I'd just blow in them. I've got a video of it on my Facebook, GFB Outdoors, and it's a sweet video. It hit quite a few views. A lot of people liked it.
I know. I had John Breland ask me about Italian minnow, I believe it is.
I just seen that.
I'm not exactly sure what you're referring to, John.
Maybe you put the slab tickler on the minnow and it give them a little mustache there. Yeah.
Also, we've got a little break, and guys, shoot us some more today's bite out. What's your today's bite? We want to hear some more fishing reports. Shoot them out there
For sure. I seen Josh Bulware caught a nice mixed bag of white and blacks strip pit here in southeast Kansas. I may have been on that trip with him. 18 foot deep, having to cast 30 to 40 foot. If we got close to those fish, what he means by that is they would spook from the boat, and they were 18 to 20 foot deep. And if you got within 15, 20 foot of them, you've ruined it. So we had to stay back 30, 40 foot. Typical schools of black crappie. You got to stay back away from them. They're super spooky. And we just pitched big. He threw a big jig, big slab hunter. I can't remember what color. He'd have to remind me, but he had the slab hunters, the big guns, and then I had a small guy on trying to catch the black crappie. He caught, I think, the biggest ones, which were whites.
Joe, he's giving us a fish report on his today's bite.
Oh, yeah. He's been beating the brakes off of him.
I know it. 2 to 4
Crappie
foot deep, 25 to 35 foot of water. They were right for the picking. 45 to 15 foot. Joe, what body of water? We want to hear it, man. Come on, give us some details.
Yeah, don't be holding back now.
Yeah.
I can't wait to go with him. Sometime we keep trying to meet up, but we're going to be in the boat sometime. We're going to have way too much fun. It's going to be against the law for how much laughing we do, but we're going to have a great time. I can't wait to go with you, Joe. He beats the heck. Speaking of blackfish and finicky fish, this guy's got that figured out. Staying back from him and casting. And the video I was talking last video about him shooting, he's the fellow that's kind of started all that with the shooting the rod. He says Oconee and Georgia Lake. Oconee, I've seen him post about that one. There's another one that he fishes a lot that I forget the name of it, Joe, but I think it starts with an S. You might have to remind me, but he catches a lot of blackfish. I hardly ever see him catching whites out there. So he's got that shallow blackfish down. Everybody talking about those blacks earlier.
It says Chris from YouTube. He says, "Do you notice crappie prefer kicker tails versus curly tails in the winter? Notice this weekend they wouldn't hit the curly tail."
I would agree with that. When he says kicker tail, though, is he meaning what's he mean by that? More of a flat.
Probably kind of like the swimmer, a little butt end to them or something like that degree, I would imagine.
Absolutely. Hey, swirly tail in the spring and a kicker tail in the fall. Yes, I got you. Yep. I would agree with that. Something with that curly tail. They don't like a lot of action this time of year where we're at.
We got we'll go back to the Italian minnow deal. John Breland. Come on now, tell me that ain't right. He's sprinkling. I'm trying to get back to it. Do you see it, Dustin?
Oh.
Garlic powder.
Yeah. Garlic powder in the water on them. Joshua Matthews, we smoked him today. 15 foot of water, was on brush. We're in open water roaming, just loaded. Wouldn't move or drop it on their nose. They would have to flutter, come up and hit it. Joshua Matthews, where are you fishing at? Let them know where you're smoking them now. We want coordinates.
Gregory Harris, he's fishing Santee Cooper.
Joe, he said he can't post pictures on there for some reason. Well, Joe, what the heck, man? I'm looking forward to it if you can get them on here. Do you ever dye minnows? And if so, what conditions do you use them in? I do not dye minnows, but I've seen Eric Cagle dye minnows, and it's like a chartreuse. They have a chartreuse and a red, and it seems like in the summertime was his favorite time to dye them. If I'm right, I'd say summertime when they're really, really finicky. You can't get them to bite a small jig, a big jig. The minnows is the only way to go. I would say try to dye them. I bet that would work. And they have also a scent with that dye, so it gives the minnow a little bit extra. Gives minnow help when you have nothing else. Just like this slab tickler, something extra. Just like the dying minnows, it's just something different they don't see often.
Joshua's Matthew there, he's giving us his today's bite. He said he's smoking today in 15 foot of water on brush or in open water. They were out roaming.
He said that's Hudson Lake.
Hudson Lake.
I figured that was Hudson. They've been cracking them on Hudson pretty good.
Did not want the bait moving. sitting on top of their nose. It makes sense. That's kind of the same thing that's happening for me, and that's these finicky fish.
Today, Wren Lake, 4 to 5 foot, 42 degrees, lots of fish. 4 to 5 foot and 42 degrees. Tyler Babbitt, thanks for joining in, buddy.
We got another today's bite. Let's see it. Wren Lake, 4 to 5 foot, 40-degree water, 42-degree water. Gray Ghost.
You ever kill minnows or cut them? Kyle Davis, epic question, brother. I love killing my minnows because when they're super lively, they will outrun the crappie, and I've seen crappie chasing them. It can be a mess. So dead minnow works probably the best for me, or hook the minnow where it doesn't have a lot of free room to spin. Flick it in the forehead, kind of knock it dizzy, whatever, but I like a dead minnow.
Yeah, I agree. I like it because we're really targeting these fish, and what we're talking about mainly right now would be live scoping and kill them and put them right in the face. And I'll be honest with you, I use a minnow about 3 times out of the year and fish 200 plus days. So there's very rarely I really have enough confidence in artificial bait that I rarely ever use minnows.
John Breland, just a sprinkle will do of the garlic.
We've got a question from Chris Collins. He said he's fishing Barnett. Let me pull it back on the screen there for you guys. He's fishing Ross Barnett, 15 to 20 foot of water from the bottom, only a few feet from the bottom, strictly staying near channels. At what point should flats be my new target? Chris, it depends on the bait fish. And it goes back to what I'm seeing on these sonars as far as where the bait fish are at in those tight balls of shad. If they're really loose in the area, regardless if it's a flat or the river channel, I'm going to target them at that point. I'm going to just really look for that tight balls of shad no matter how close it is to the channel.
I would say not being smart aleck, but I would just say when they start disappearing where you've been catching them, their next move is going to be the flat. So when you're smacking them really good and then all of a sudden they start changing when they're not there, then I guess that's when I would start looking for the flats is when you had this pattern figured out and then one day they're starting to change, not catching near as many. Their next step is going to be the flats. So I'd be checking when I started slowing down.
Bob, he would catch them last night at the spillway at Grenada. Snagging them. Easy. I guess that would have been tonight's bite or last night's bite, huh?
Yeah. Can't put Bob Grantham can't post pics. Well, what in the world? I don't know how to do that.
We'll go back and post them on our regular Crappie Connection page. You might not be able to do it on this live feed. I'm not sure about how pictures go on there, but Probably. Hey guys, if you got your today's bite, post them. And I'll tell you what, we'll make it even interesting. I'll put a contest out and get you some Crappie Connection gear. Whoever gets the most likes on today's bite, whatever day it is from today until next Tuesday night, I'll mail you some Crappie Connection gear. Whoever gets the most likes. So, hey, let's get them out there. Tony Skeen from YouTube. He said, do you prefer a certain size slab tickler? And, they have variations of size and colors in the packages. Dustin, you probably grab that thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've just got this one, though, size 0 and 1. But I don't prefer different. I'd say smaller just because I'm not a super aggressive fisherman. But you might grab, I would say.
Yeah, it's just trial and error kind of thing. Whatever you get.
That doesn't hurt to have bigger ones certain times for sure. If you have a bigger bait, a bigger flasher, sometimes you can't go big enough. Sometimes you can't go small enough. So I'd say either or.
I'm going to take a moment too. If you guys have not watched last week's podcast, we had Eric Cagle and Scott Williams on there. And the response, everybody that's watched it has really said how good it is. And I truly agree. We had 2 great fishermen on there. And, they talked a lot of strategies and how to build brush piles even. But those 2 guys are phenomenal in our sport, and can't appreciate them enough for being on last week's podcast, because it was one of my favorites that I've done so far, and I've got a lot of favorites, even yours, Dustin. I'll tell you.
Yeah,
that.
I was about to just say that.
I know. I'm gonna get you in the mix, but
Brian,
that's a very good one.
You got a good question, brother. You love Bobby Garland baits, but go through so many. How do you, due to how soft they are, any tricks to make them last longer, especially the slab slayers? Man, there's several tricks. You talk to a lot of people. I've heard a lot of different tricks people use. I guess, there's different things. The super glue is super good. You can just dab super glue on the face of the jig before you shove it up to the jig head, and that thing is not going anywhere. If you super glue it and shove it in there, you're set until that thing falls apart. I've seen people with twist lock jig heads. They'll screw them in. It lasts a lot longer that way. My thing is, they come so many in a pack. Just carry the pack on you. That's why they sell so many in a single pack. So just rotate through them, because I like the softness for the action of the bait. So there's several different ways. Like I said, if I was going to try to keep it on there a long time, though, I'd try the super glue and see how you like it. Get you a little system, because you can get super glue everywhere if you don't have something clean or a little tip just to dab it on there. But that super glue is the real deal. I learned that trick in enclosed fishing from an old fellow one time.
Well, guys, I definitely apologize. We had a little delay tonight, but we're going to be back here next Tuesday night, 7:00. We want to hear today's bite. We want to hear what you guys are doing. What's working for you? Let's share it. Let's grow this sport. And I can tell you what, I'm going to tell you my today's bite, good, bad, and ugly, and I know Dustin's going to do the same.
Yes, sir. I always try to act like it's good, though. Joe Fortenza, here's a good one. He had a lot of rain last week, and the rain is moving through our lake. How long do y'all think it takes for the fish to get acclimated to it before they start to bite again? That always depends on how much rain and how heavy it all was, how muddy it all got. I'd be chasing that cleaner water wherever it is if it's not moved all the way through yet. But once it moves all the way through, I'd say about a week, maybe 2, and it's back to go time. But I'd say by the end of this week, I bet you're posting more pictures of big old slabs, Joe. You let us know. You let me know how long it took.
What's it? C219 troll from YouTube. He got 14.5 pounds in third place on Clark's Hill.
Ooh, congratulations.
It is fishing great.
Congratulations, brother.
Good job, buddy.
Third
man.
place anywhere is a good dang turn up there.
I'm gonna put the code back up there one more time for you guys. It's on lurenet.com. You get 15% off by using the discount code Today's Bite 15 off slab ticklers and Crappie Pro jig heads. It's a good little deal. We're going to run a lot of different things like that with these guys, and we cannot thank Bobby Garland Baits enough for getting this together and supporting it. And, you guys supporting us as well. We're going to try to keep bringing you really good information. Make sure you hit subscribe on the YouTube channel and follow on the Facebook.
And y'all go get that 15%. It's 15% so you can get different sizes. That fella that asked. Get you some of those ticklers, guys. That don't come around. Like I said, it's for this show. And then I think it runs until January 15th. Am I right? January 15th, your guys' deadline. So when you buy the first batch tonight and you go out there and smoke all them fish, you can buy more. So January 15th is when it's deadline on that code.
Well, that's all I got for tonight, man.
I appreciate you all so much. Thanks for all the comments. Joe Persenza, 2 days, 3-peat. You send me pictures, Joe.
Well, we appreciate you guys. Until next time, this is Brad Chappell here.
Yep. I'll see y'all. Dustin, signing out.
All right. Holla, man.
Holla.